In the quiet dark of the mind, before thought takes shape and before language awakens, there exists a silent spark. It glows faintly, unseen, a whisper of electricity born within the living sea of neurons. This is where everything begins, not in words or images, but in delicate patterns of light and motion, each one carrying the pulse of life. The brain, vast yet intimate, hums with energy even when the body lies still. It does not rest, it orchestrates every breath, every beat, every secret exchange between cell and cell that allows existence to unfold. The human brain is a landscape unseen by eyes, more intricate than galaxies, more mysterious than the depths of the ocean. Inside it, billions of neurons stretch like constellations across a night sky, each one reaching for another, building bridges of communication through threads thinner than light itself. These connections, synapses, number in the trillions, weaving together every memory, every dream, every heartbeat that ever was. Within their electrical whispers lies the story of who we are. Long before you first opened your eyes, this network began to build itself. In the silent chamber of the womb, a tiny cluster of cells began dividing, multiplying, unfolding into something unimaginable. A structure capable of thought, love, creativity, and consciousness. As the heartbeat formed, so did the rhythm of the brain, a pulse that would never cease until the final breath. Even before birth, it was listening, responding, adapting. It heard the muffled sounds of a mother's voice, the rhythm of her heart, the ebb and flow of her breathing. These became its first symphonies, gentle, repetitive, safe. When you were born, light flooded your senses. For the first time, the brain was faced with chaos. Color, texture, temperature, the sharp air of the world. In an instant, billions of neurons began to fire in waves, learning the contours of existence. Every blink, every sound, every touch sent signals rushing inward, and the brain began to write its first lines in the long, living poem of consciousness. Slowly, order grew out of noise. Neurons that fired together strengthened their connection, building pathways of understanding. Sight became meaning. Touch became comfort. Sound became recognition. Over days and years, those patterns deepened, forming the architecture of perception. What you call your awareness, your memory, your voice is born out of this endless dance of firing and silence, signal and rest, a conversation that never stops even as you sleep. The surface of the brain, the cortex, curls and folds upon itself like the petals of an ancient flower. It is here that imagination blooms. The folds allow vast networks to fit into a small space, each region speaking its own dialect of thought. One part translates sound into words, another turns those words into meaning, another still connects meaning to feeling. It is not one voice but a chorus, a symphony of functions performing in perfect synchronization. Deeper within lies the limbic system, the emotional core. This is where the primitive meets the profound. Here, feelings rise like tides: joy, fear, longing, peace. Each emotion is not a simple thought, but a complex biological song. When something beautiful moves you, it is the limbic system lighting up in waves of dopamine and oxytocin. When you remember a loss, it is the same system pulling memory and sorrow together, reminding you of what was once cherished. All the while, below everything, the brainstem keeps its ancient watch. It is the keeper of life's most sacred rhythms: heartbeat, breathing, balance. It does not think, it simply is. While you dream, it whispers to your lungs, telling them to rise and fall. While you walk, it steadies your step. While you sleep, it maintains the heartbeat of your body's entire universe. Without it, all else would fall silent. The brain does not act alone. It lives in communion with the body, speaking constantly through a language of chemicals and electricity. A thought is not just a whisper of neurons, it is a cascade of energy flowing into every cell. When the brain perceives danger, your heart quickens, muscles tighten, pupils widen, not out of will but out of unity. When you rest, it sends signals of peace, lowering blood pressure, slowing breath, quieting the inner storm. Every organ listens, every cell obeys, all guided by this unseen conductor. What we call consciousness is the harmony that arises from this unity. It is not found in one place, it is a state of connection. Billions of neurons flicker together in microscopic constellations, forming the patterns that become awareness. When you look at the stars and feel wonder, that sensation is not in the sky, but within the circuits of your brain, a vast inner universe mirroring the cosmos above. The brain remembers not only what you have seen, but how it made you feel. When you recall a childhood home, you don't just see walls or windows. You feel warmth, light, safety. That memory is built not only of data, but of emotion encoded into the same neural pathways that once lived it. Every recollection is a small act of resurrection, a return to a moment long gone but never lost. Sleep deepens this connection between memory and emotion. When the body grows heavy and eyes close, the mind does not stop, it travels. During sleep, neurons fire in slow, rhythmic waves, replaying fragments of the day, sorting them, deciding which to keep and which to release. Dreams are the echoes of that process, fragments of thought and memory woven together into story. They are the mind's way of healing itself, transforming noise into meaning, fear into understanding. As you rest, glial cells, the caretakers of the brain, awaken. They clean the neural pathways, clearing away waste left by thought. It is as if, while you sleep, a quiet caretaker walks the halls of your mind, sweeping, restoring, preparing it for morning. When you wake, you do not notice the work that has been done, but you feel it. The fog lifts, the world sharpens, the self feels whole again. Every thought, every dream, every choice begins as a single electrical spark between two neurons. And yet from those tiny flashes emerge all of art, music, love, philosophy, everything that makes humanity what it is. From atoms of sodium and potassium dancing across a membrane, consciousness unfolds. The ordinary becomes divine. The brain learns endlessly, reshaping itself with each experience. This process, called plasticity, is its secret gift. It can rewire, relearn, rebuild after loss. When a pianist practices, neurons strengthen their rhythm. When a child learns a language, new pathways bloom. Even in old age, the brain changes, adapting to each new sunrise, each new moment of being alive. It is never static. It is a river flowing endlessly through time. And yet, for all its complexity, the brain seeks one thing above all: balance. It is the art of equilibrium. Between chaos and order, instinct and reason, past and present. When that balance holds, peace follows. When it falters, the mind struggles. But even then, even in confusion or pain, the brain is searching for harmony, trying to bring its many voices back into tune. If you could listen closely, not with ears, but with understanding, you would hear it. The faint hum beneath thought, the gentle rhythm beneath silence. It is the sound of neurons communicating, of life unfolding within. The same pulse that drives the sea and stars moves within you. Every flicker of thought is a reflection of that universal rhythm. In this way, the human brain is not merely an organ. It is the cosmos condensed, the vast intelligence of the universe folded into flesh and spark. It looks out through your eyes, speaks through your voice, dreams through your sleep. The light within it has travelled through evolution for millions of years, shaped by struggle, refined by survival, made beautiful by curiosity. When you gaze at the night sky and wonder who you are, it is the universe itself asking the question through you. The brain is that bridge, the meeting point between matter and meaning, between physics and feeling. It allows the cosmos to know itself, to reflect upon its own creation. And so, through you, the universe becomes aware of its own light. The story of the brain is also the story of time itself. It remembers the dawn of life. When the first creatures in the ancient seas sensed the world only through touch and light, over eons, that faint sensitivity grew into awareness. Cells began to respond, to communicate, to adapt. What began as reaction became perception. And slowly, from that endless dialogue, the first primitive minds were born. Those ancient networks, tiny and simple, carried forward through evolution. Each new species added complexity, new layers upon the old, like a coral reef growing upward from ancient bones. The reptilian brain guarded survival. The mammalian brain nurtured emotion, and the human brain added imagination, allowing not only the awareness of the present, but the ability to dream of the future. Within your skull lives this entire history, folded into 3 pounds of matter. The oldest parts still watch the heart and lungs. The newer layers craft language, memory, art. Evolution did not erase what came before. It built upon it, stacking memory upon memory, instinct beneath reason, emotion beneath thought. The result is not a single voice, but a chorus of ages speaking together in harmony. When you feel hunger, it is the ancient brain that calls. When you fall in love, it is the emotional brain that sings. And when you gaze at the stars and wonder why they exist, it is the newest brain, the prefrontal cortex, searching for meaning beyond survival. All three coexist, intertwined like roots, trunk, and branches of a single living tree. That tree grows inside you. Its roots reach deep into the spinal cord, branching through the body in streams of nerves. The trunk rises through the brainstem, firm and silent. The branches spread into the hemispheres, dividing into countless twigs of thought. On each twig flickers a leaf of light, a neuron communicating with thousands of others, passing the song of life from cell to cell. Every neuron speaks in a language older than words, a code of voltage and chemistry. Tiny gates open and close, allowing ions to flow. The rhythm of these openings creates a pulse, an electrical signal that travels along a fiber, leaping across the gap to another cell. From this dance comes everything: a heartbeat, a decision, a melody remembered. Each second, billions of such sparks race through the brain's vast network. They move not in chaos but in patterns. Waves that ripple across the cortex, oscillations that shape awareness. When you focus, certain regions light up together, forming clusters of attention. When you relax, those clusters dissolve into slow, gentle rhythms. The mind is a sea, and thoughts are its waves, constantly shifting, constantly returning to stillness. At times, you may feel that thoughts arise from nowhere. A memory, a sudden idea, a vision unbidden. But deep within, there is always cause and connection. Neurons never sleep. They combine fragments of experience, weaving new associations from old memories. The imagination you feel as spontaneous creation is, in truth, the brain's quiet art, rearranging the materials of the past to form something entirely new. And what of the self, that sense of I that perceives and decides? For centuries, it has been called a soul, a consciousness, a mystery. Yet within the brain, it is not found in any single place. The self is not a location, but an interaction, the sum of countless networks in conversation. When they align, awareness arises, like light appearing when currents meet. When they part, the self fades into the background, as in sleep or deep meditation. In this balance lies the miracle of being. The brain never stops monitoring, interpreting, imagining. It predicts what the senses will feel before they feel it. When you reach for a cup, the movement begins before you are aware of choosing it. The mind lives half a second in the future, anticipating each moment so smoothly that you perceive the world as continuous. This predictive dance allows you to move with grace, to speak without delay, to feel present in every action. It is why a melody feels whole, why language flows, why your perception of the world feels unbroken. The brain is not merely recording reality. It is constructing it, frame by frame, instant by instant, so seamlessly that you never notice the effort behind the illusion. Yet this illusion is not deceit. It is compassion. The brain spares you from the chaos of raw information, sculpting it into experience. It softens sharp edges, fills in the gaps, creates continuity. The world you know is not the world as it is, but the world as the brain gently dreams it into being. An act of quiet mercy that allows peace to exist in a sea of motion. The hemispheres of the brain, left and right, play their own duet in this creation. The left brings precision, logic, language, sequence. It dissects, measures, analyzes. The right brings wholeness, art, emotion, intuition. It sees the forest, not the trees. Together they form a unity, each balancing the other's extremes. Too much of one, and the world becomes mechanical, too much of the other, and it drifts into chaos. Together, they create both science and poetry, both order and wonder. The bridge between them, the corpus callosum, is a river of fibers carrying signals from side to side. It allows a thought born in one hemisphere to bloom fully in the other. A word that becomes a song, an image that becomes understanding. This unity of opposites defines the human mind. It is reason and emotion intertwined, analysis and empathy in constant dialogue. Somewhere deep inside, near the center of it all, lies the thalamus, the brain's great relay. Every sense, except for smell, passes through it, waiting for approval before reaching awareness. It decides what matters, what fades away. Without it, the world would overwhelm you. But through its gatekeeping, attention finds focus. Beyond it lies the hippocampus, the keeper of memory. It captures the fleeting present and transforms it into the durable past. When you recall the scent of rain or the face of a friend, it is this small, seahorse-shaped structure that reawakens the pattern. It does not hold memories like a library. It rebuilds them anew each time, piecing together the fragments so seamlessly you believe they were preserved whole. Each recollection is a reconstruction shaped slightly by the present. In this way, memory is not static but alive. It changes with you, softens with time, heals as you heal. The brain, even in its remembering, practices compassion, protecting you from pain by blurring edges, by tainting sorrow with understanding. All around these structures, the cerebral cortex spreads outward like the surface of a planet. Here reside language, creativity, decision, empathy, and imagination. When you hear music, the auditory cortex translates vibration into meaning. When you imagine a landscape, the visual cortex paints it with inner light. When you choose kindness, the prefrontal regions weigh consequences, empathy, and intention, the moral architecture of the mind. And yet, all of this happens silently. No sound escapes the skull, no flicker of light can be seen. From the outside, a resting person seems still, serene, but within, storms of energy rise and fall in patterns more complex than any weather. The brain is a quiet universe unto itself, filled with invisible lightning. When you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, that lightning slows, softens, becomes rhythmic. Waves of activity sweep through the cortex like tides through moonlight. Thoughts dissolve into images, images into dream, and at last, the waking world fades. Yet even then, the brain continues its vigil, maintaining heartbeat, breath, temperature, memory. It never truly sleeps, it merely changes its music. To the mind, sleep is not absence but transformation. It is a time for restoration, for rebalancing the delicate chemistry that sustains thought. During deep sleep, growth hormones are released, neurons recover, synapses reset. During dreaming sleep, creativity awakens, linking distant memories into new patterns. The sleeper's body lies still, but the mind is alive with stories. Dreams are the poetry of the brain, messages written in symbols, fragments of memory rearranged into meaning. They may seem strange, but they are the brain's language of healing. Through them, emotion is processed, pain softened, joy remembered. Each night, your mind rehearses the art of letting go, learning anew the balance between chaos and calm. Even when dreams fade upon waking, their effects linger. You rise lighter, steadier, renewed. The brain, through the silent labor of night, has done its work, clearing pathways, strengthening connections, preparing you once again for the light. And so, from dawn to dusk, from birth to death, the human brain carries the rhythm of existence. It is the most intricate instrument in the known universe, yet it plays with effortless grace. It is both the question and the answer, both the composer and the song. When morning comes and light brushes across the eyelids, the brain stirs first, before the body moves. Before eyes open, waves of awareness begin to rise from the depths. Neurons, dormant through the night's deep rhythm, begin to quicken. Slowly the tide of consciousness returns, carrying with it the quiet residue of dreams. For a few breaths, you stand between two worlds, the soft haze of imagination and the crisp clarity of waking. The brain performs this miracle every day, turning darkness into dawn within the mind before the sun even reaches the skin. As awareness strengthens, the senses awaken in sequence. The thalamus opens its gates, allowing sound to enter first, the murmur of wind, the distant calling of birds. Then comes touch, the awareness of air against the skin, the weight of the body resting upon the bed. Sight follows, light filtered through eyelids, colour bleeding gently into perception. Each sense announces itself, not chaotically, but as though a conductor raises them one by one from silence. In these first moments, countless systems synchronize. Hormones flow, blood pressure rises, the heart accelerates slightly. The prefrontal cortex prepares for decision, for movement, for the elegant complexity of another waking day. Yet even in this activation, there is calm purpose. The brain does not rush. It unfolds the morning like a flower opens its petals, measured and inevitable. As you sit up and breathe, millions of neurons collaborate to maintain balance. Tiny structures in the inner ear, the vestibular system, detect the angle of gravity and adjust posture in an instant. Without conscious thought, muscles shift, eyes stabilize, and the sense of orientation is restored. The brain does this effortlessly, weaving sensory information into the seamless fabric of experience. Then the world truly arrives. Light floods the retinas, and the visual cortex flares to life. Patterns of photons become shapes, edges, movement. Within milliseconds, colour is born, depth inferred, distance calculated. The brain does not see with the eyes alone. It constructs vision by blending memory with light. When you recognize a familiar face, you are not just perceiving, you are remembering. The image travels through networks of recognition, through emotional centers that assign warmth and meaning to what you see. A glance becomes affection, a landscape becomes beauty, because the brain paints emotion over the canvas of sight. The auditory world unfolds just as intricately. Vibrations in the air press upon the eardrum, transformed into electrical signals that the brain interprets as sound. But sound is more than vibration, it is pattern, tone, association. A single note of music can awaken an entire season of memory. The brain stitches together rhythm and resonance, connecting present and past in an instant. Through this subtle art, it turns physics into feeling, and when words are spoken, an even greater miracle occurs. The auditory cortex passes them to regions of comprehension and response. Meaning arises where there was only air and motion. The listener does not hear a word. They understand it, translate it, respond with empathy or curiosity. Conversation, simple as it seems, is the meeting of two universes of thought, each shaped by billions of neurons sharing signals across time and space. Inside the skull, energy hums ceaselessly. Neurons consume nearly a fifth of the body's energy, yet their power is modest, just enough to light a small bulb. It is not brute force that sustains thought, but organization. Each cell knows when to fire and when to rest, forming vast networks of balance. If one region falters, another compensates. The brain is not fragile, but astonishingly resilient, built to survive, adapt, repair. This adaptability reveals itself in moments of change. When a new skill is learned, the first notes of a piano, the uncertain steps of a dance, the brain reshapes itself. Neurons forge new pathways, strengthen new bridges, prune those that lie unused. The structure of thought shifts like clay responding to the sculptor's hands. The learner may feel clumsy, yet within the skull, a quiet revolution takes place, chaos becoming mastery, repetition becoming art. Even emotion rewires the brain. Acts of kindness release chemicals that reinforce trust, carving pathways of empathy. Repeated gratitude strengthens networks of calm. Fear can reshape the same circuits, etching vigilance and caution. In this way, experience writes itself into the very matter of the mind. What you think and feel today leaves physical traces that shape who you will become tomorrow. This is the reason memory and emotion are entwined. Joy and sorrow, hope and regret. Each emotion marks the brain with its own chemistry. Dopamine brightens attention, serotonin steadies mood, oxytocin binds affection. These molecules move through synapses like gentle messengers, influencing what we remember and how deeply we care. The brain is not cold logic, it is warm, reactive life. And in its center beats an older rhythm still, the automatic harmony of heartbeat and breath. The medulla and pons maintain this rhythm quietly, without demand for awareness. Each breath brings oxygen, feeding neurons with life. Each exhalation carries away the carbon ghosts of thought. Breathing is the brain's closest ally. When it slows, the mind follows. When it deepens, calm spreads through every cell. In stillness, the body becomes a reflection of the mind's inner ocean. At times, thought becomes heavy, the mind cluttered with the weight of worry. Yet the same organ that breeds anxiety also holds the key to peace. Through mindful focus, neural rhythms shift. The prefrontal regions quiet the amygdala, the emotional alarm of the brain. With each slow breath, signals of safety ripple downward, calming the heart, relaxing muscles, softening the gaze. In these moments, the brain rediscovers its natural state, poised equilibrium. Awareness itself is the art of noticing this equilibrium. To be aware is to see thought not as noise, but as current. You are not the current, you are the ocean that carries it. The brain provides the movement, but consciousness is the space that holds it all. Scientists debate where that space begins, yet its experience is undeniable. The simple awareness of existing is the most profound fact in the universe, the cosmos reflecting upon itself. Through this awareness, humanity builds meaning. The same neural circuits that once ensured survival now create philosophy, music, kindness. The drive that once sought food and shelter now seeks understanding and connection. Evolution has turned instinct into introspection, hunger into wonder. The brain has learned not only to sense the world, but to sense itself sensing, a circle of awareness with no clear edge. And still, beneath intellect and art, the primal brain endures. That ancient guardian from the age of reptiles. It remains alert, scanning the world for danger. It startles at sudden movement, quickens at the scent of smoke. Though civilization surrounds it, though reason reigns, that ancient core still listens. It cannot be silenced, but it can be befriended. When reassurance reaches it, when safety becomes familiar, it relaxes, allowing peace to return. Each of us carries this layered inheritance, the ancient watcher, the emotional dreamer, the rational thinker. Together they compose the human condition. To live is to feel them all, fear and curiosity, instinct and compassion, woven into one mind. The miracle lies not in their conflict, but in their coexistence. If the brain were visible in its living motion, it would resemble a night sky full of constellations, shimmering with communication. Each spark a thought, each connection a memory. But unlike the heavens, this cosmos of the mind is not fixed. Its stars are born and die every second. You are looking at change itself, at the living map of your own awareness. Within this map lie the stories of everything you have ever been. The laughter of youth, the ache of loss, the quiet pride of resilience. The brain keeps them all, not as static images, but as living patterns that shape your present self. When you forgive, new pathways grow. When you learn compassion, new bridges form. The past does not bind you, it instructs you. The brain, ever pliable, gives you the power to begin again. So when the day moves forward and thoughts scatter across the hours, remember the quiet genius within. It listens, calculates, feels, protects, imagines, all in a heartbeat. It transforms sunlight into vision, air into voice, memory into wisdom. It is both ancient and new, both servant and guide. And when night returns, it will lead you gently back into dream, where the cycle of renewal begins again. As daylight stretches and the hours drift onward, the human brain continues its quiet choreography. Beneath every thought and movement, vast currents of activity shimmer unseen. Even when the body appears still, the mind is never truly at rest. It listens, predicts, remembers, and dreams of what might come next. The conscious mind is only the visible surface of an ocean that reaches deep into mystery. When creativity begins to stir, it often feels spontaneous, as though an idea appeared from nowhere. But deep inside, the process is anything but sudden. The brain's networks of association work in gentle secrecy, connecting distant fragments of memory and perception. The temporal lobes recall the melody of an old song, while the prefrontal cortex rearranges pattern and form. Somewhere in the quiet space between intention and thought, a spark leaps across synapses, and an idea is born. Artists, scientists, inventors, and dreamers all rely on this hidden architecture. The painter mixing colors, the mathematician tracing the outline of a new theorem, the writer searching for a phrase that feels true. Each listens to the same whispering source. It is the brain's capacity to combine what it has known with what it has yet to imagine. Imagination is not a single place. It is a bridge between countless regions that rarely meet. Sometimes it awakens in solitude, when distractions fade and silence becomes generous. The default mode network hums softly, connecting pieces of the self. Memories drift upward, re-colored by the present. Emotion and logic converse without conflict. The thinker becomes a witness, watching thoughts assemble themselves into something almost inevitable. In these moments, the brain feels like a living instrument, tuned to the harmonies of possibility. And then, when inspiration strikes, other systems ignite. Dopamine surges, attention sharpens. The body feels the slight quickening of discovery. It is not merely satisfaction. It is recognition. The sense that something long hidden has finally found its voice. The mind delights in completion, yet it hungers just as deeply for the process that leads there. This same network of wonder extends to empathy and intuition. To understand another person, the brain mirrors their expressions, imagines their feelings, recreates their inner weather. Mirror neurons in the promoter cortex allow us to feel what others feel, not just to observe it. This quiet resonance makes human connection possible. It is the reason a story can move us. Why music written centuries ago can stir emotion in a listener today. The brain does not separate self from other as cleanly as we think. It builds bridges of recognition across time and space. Intuition emerges from these same pathways. The swift, wordless conclusion that arrives before analysis. It is not magic, but experience condensed. The brain collects patterns over a lifetime, storing them beyond reach of conscious recall. When a familiar signal appears, these patterns activate and deliver an answer without explanation. The feeling of knowing is older than reason itself. It is the deep memory of the species whispering guidance through the fabric of the mind. All through the day, thought flows in layers: perception, emotion, memory, reflection. And as dusk approaches, another transformation begins. The chemistry of wakefulness softens. The pineal gland releases melatonin, telling the body that night has come. Temperature falls slightly, the world outside dims, the brain turns inward once more. Sleep is not absence but renewal. When the eyes close and consciousness fades, the brain begins a nightly symphony of restoration. Waves of slow electrical rhythm sweep across the cortex, clearing fragments of the day. Glial cells, the quiet caretakers of the nervous system, flush away the molecular debris of thought. The hippocampus replays moments from waking life, engraving memories deeper into long-term storage. Dreams rise from this process like mist over water. They are the brain's way of weaving emotion and memory into meaning. In one dream, you might revisit a childhood street; in another, fly over landscapes that never existed. The boundaries of logic dissolve, yet the emotional truth remains. Dreams heal the mind by allowing impossible reconciliation. Fear met without danger. Grief softened into symbol, longing transmuted into story. Scientists have mapped the stages of sleep, but the purpose of dreaming still eludes complete understanding. Perhaps it is rehearsal for survival, perhaps emotional cleansing, perhaps simply the mind's way of playing with itself. Whatever the reason, it is clear that without dream, the waking mind begins to crumble. Deprived of sleep, neurons lose rhythm, attention flickers, mood darkens. The brain needs its nightly descent into silence as much as the lungs need air. While we dream, memories are reorganized. The brain decides what to keep and what to release. Facts needed for learning are strengthened, trivial fragments fade. This quiet librarian ensures that the next day begins with clarity rather than clutter. Even creativity depends on this nightly reordering. Many great ideas arrive upon waking, when the boundaries between dream and daylight are still thin enough for inspiration to slip through. The cycle of waking and sleeping shapes the rhythm of every life. Within it, the brain balances chaos and order. In the morning, it gathers information. In the night, it distills wisdom. This balance mirrors the universe itself. Expansion and contraction, noise and silence, creation and rest. Through these cycles, the brain not only sustains life, but creates the feeling of continuity, the sense that one day flows naturally into the next. Yet beneath the rhythm of sleep and wake, something constant endures, the awareness that observes them both. When the brain dreams, it conjures entire worlds. When it awakens, it dissolves them. But the witness behind both states remains. Consciousness flickers like a lamp that never truly extinguishes. Whether awake or asleep, This awareness experiences existence through the patterns of the brain, yet is not confined by them. The mystery of consciousness has long puzzled science and philosophy alike. Some believe it arises purely from complex computation. Others that it is a fundamental property of reality itself, whatever its origin. The experience of being, of knowing that we are, is the most intimate miracle we can name. The brain may be the stage, but awareness is the light that makes the play visible. Even as you listen or read these words, billions of cells cooperate to create the illusion of simplicity. Letters become meaning, meaning becomes image, image becomes feeling. The transformation happens faster than you can notice. This is the elegance of the human mind, its ability to turn chemistry into poetry, motion into thought, sound into silence. As the evening deepens and calm descends, the same organ that once built civilizations and composed symphonies now prepares you for rest. It slows the heartbeat, releases waves of comfort, and leads you gently back into that vast internal night. The neurons that crafted your waking world will soon weave another, one made of light and memory, drifting beyond the reach of reason. And while you sleep, somewhere deep within, the brain continues its ceaseless dance, learning, healing, imagining tomorrow. It will remember what it needs to remember and forget what it can. It will file away the day's laughter and soften the edges of pain. It will create new paths for empathy, fresh circuits for understanding. All this will happen while you dream of stars or oceans or faces that once smiled at you. The brain never stops creating worlds. Even in stillness, it is building bridges between what was and what might be. Each moment of quiet is a seed of transformation, waiting for the right light to grow. By morning, you will awaken renewed, carrying within you not just the echo of sleep, but the silent evolution of the mind itself. When morning rises again, the brain awakens to its oldest companion, wonder. Before names, before language, this wonder guided every glance toward the sky. It still lives in the folds of the cortex, in circuits that once measured danger, but now seek meaning. The same organ that calculates the motion of a falling stone also dreams of galaxies. Thought expands outward, tracing the invisible threads that bind neuron to nebula. From the moment a child first gazes upward, the brain begins to weave the universe into itself. Light from distant stars falls upon the retina, and the optic nerve carries it inward, transforming cosmic history into perception. The brain does not merely receive the universe, it recreates it. Inside, starlight becomes awareness. The vastness beyond becomes the quiet interior landscape of imagination. Each atom of the brain was born in a star long before humanity existed. Calcium for bones, iron for blood, phosphorus for thought, all forged in ancient stellar fires. When those stars died, they scattered their elements across the void, to drift and gather and one day think. Every spark of electricity that leaps between neurons is a tiny echo of that first cosmic ignition. The mind is the universe remembering itself. Across millennia, humans have built instruments to extend their senses, telescopes, microscopes, equations. Yet each discovery begins in the same place. The silent theatre of the brain, the mathematics that describe black holes, the colours painted across canvas, the melodies that drift through night air, all arise from the same grey matter, folded softly within the skull. The brain is not only a receiver of reality, it is its storyteller. It seeks pattern because pattern brings peace. To find rhythm in the noise of existence is to feel briefly at home in the infinite. Whether tracing constellations or composing symphonies, the brain organizes chaos into meaning. It cannot help but do so. This is its nature. When faced with randomness, it builds order. When faced with silence, it invents song. Through this impulse, humanity has turned survival into culture, curiosity into civilization. But beneath all culture, beneath all story, lies the pulse of the body, the quiet, grounding rhythm that never leaves. Even in the grandest thoughts, neurons whisper reminders of the simple miracle of being alive. Every philosophy eventually returns to breath, to heartbeat, to the awareness that this instant, this small flicker of consciousness is enough. In stillness, the mind begins to sense the delicate boundary between thought and the world that carries it. It recognizes that perception is not separation, but participation. The sound of rain is not out there. It is within the circuitry of hearing. The color of the sky exists only where light meets awareness. The brain does not stand apart from reality. It is one of its expressions, as natural as the tides or the turning of the moon. When meditation quiets the endless chatter, this truth reveals itself with startling simplicity. The line between observer and observed fades. The self, which the brain so carefully constructs through memory and identity, begins to soften. What remains is pure awareness. Not a person, not a thought, but the luminous fact of existence itself. Science can map the regions that fall silent during such moments, yet the experience remains beyond measurement. It is not absence, it is completion. The same circuits that grant awareness also carry the weight of mortality. The brain knows it will end, and yet it imagines eternity. It fears, and yet it wonders. Within this paradox lies the deepest poetry of the human mind, the ability to contemplate its own impermanence, while still creating beauty that outlives it. Every work of art, every act of kindness, is the brain's defiance of entropy. As the day grows older and shadows lengthen, neurons slow again, returning to quieter patterns. Thoughts wander not toward ambition, but toward reflection. The hippocampus retrieves fragments of memory, the sound of laughter, the scent of rain on warm stone, the face of someone once loved. The brain replays these like a final evening song, balancing the ledger of experience. Gratitude releases calm waves through the limbic system, easing the body toward rest. In that transition between wakefulness and sleep, consciousness drifts once more into the borderlands of dream. The boundaries between self and universe blur. You are no longer a single being, but a movement of energy through space and time. Stars flicker behind closed eyes, oceans rise and fall with the rhythm of breath. The same neurons that once analyzed reality now paint it anew in colors that logic cannot reach. If one could listen to the sleeping brain, it would sound like distant surf, slow waves of electricity rolling across the cortex. Each wave cleanses, soothes, prepares. Within those oscillations lies the memory of every heartbeat, every moment of awareness that life has ever known. The brain does not truly rest. It becomes what it has always been: rhythm and light. And so the cycle continues, waking to dream, thinking to feeling, learning to forgetting. Each repetition refines the harmony between chaos and order, over a lifetime. Billions of neural connections form and fade, each one a tiny decision, a flicker of adaptation. Yet through all this change, the essence of you, the continuity of experience, persists. The brain changes completely over years, yet the awareness that inhabits it feels the same. Perhaps continuity is not in the matter itself, but in the music that the matter plays. In the vast silence of the night sky, the brain finds its reflection. Both are networks of light, both are in constant motion. Both hold mysteries beyond comprehension. The difference is scale, the similarity is spirit. Just as galaxies spin around invisible centers, thoughts revolve around questions that never quite resolve: what is mind? What is life? What truly is the self that wanders? Maybe the answer is not a word, but a feeling. The soft calm that comes when curiosity and peace meet. The brain seeks answers not to conquer the unknown, but to find belonging within it. Every discovery is a homecoming. Every mystery a reminder that the universe is not foreign, but familial. The atoms of your neurons once danced in the hearts of suns. When you look outward, you are seeing where you came from. In time, every thought will fade. The electrical storms of the mind will quiet, and the body will return to the earth that shaped it. But the energy that powered each synapse, the light that once leapt across the gap between neurons, will not vanish. Energy transforms, always, never dies. The spark that thought, that felt, that loved, will continue its journey through the infinite exchange of creation. Until that far horizon, the brain remains your closest universe, vast enough to hold every memory, every dream, every imagined future. It is both map and traveller, question and answer, silence and song. Within its folds lies the history of the cosmos, written in pulses of living light. And as the final moments of wakefulness dissolve into sleep, the story completes its circle. The brain, architect of awareness, surrenders again to the deep sea of renewal. Neurons slow their conversation, thought softens into sensation, sensation melts into peace. Outside, the stars move silently across the night, and inside, their echoes flicker in the quiet theatre of the mind. In that stillness, there is no separation between cosmos and consciousness, between dreamer and dream. There is only the gentle unfolding of existence, timeless, wordless, serene. The brain, for all its complexity, returns to its simplest truth, to know, to feel, to be. And so it rests the universe within, awaiting another dawn.